So we just heard the founder's perspective, ambitious, joy, brightness, discipline, leadership, the winning combination. The next step, dear guests, is about building the platform that can identifying, supporting, and connecting 500 of the most promising companies from Central, Eastern, and Southeast Europe and helping them scale globally. This is the strategic launch of the Future 500 platform. I invite moderator Jörn Fleck, director of the Atlantic Council Europe Center, and his guests, Professor Mislav Ante Omazić, president in IEDC-Bled, and Professor Igor Rudan from University of Oxford. Please welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Well, it's great to be up here. It's not just the first day of school for children in Slovenia. It's also the first day of school for the Future 500 forum. And we want to, in this rapid-fire session, try and figure out how we keep alive, to Yura's point, the spark, the excitement, the curiosity of everyone involved in this initiative. And from the Atlantic Council Europe Center perspective, we're delighted to be partnering with the IEDC-Bled School of Management in launching the Future 500 Forum. This will be the official launch session to see really how we build a pan-European platform and forum to identify, empower, and promote the most promising entrepreneurs and companies from Europe and especially Southeastern Europe, how we connect them with top-tier investors, with strategic partners, and with opportunities for mentorship, executive training, capacity building, and how we take a bottom-up approach, really, to the challenges that so many of the conversations today have already highlighted, how we combine that with, at the Atlantic Council, with our own Southeastern Europe United for Success initiative, and really shift mindsets, the ecosystem for entrepreneurs and innovation, and the policy context in the region and in Europe over time. I think it's been really exciting to see this great full room, to see the energy, the fact that we were able to attract so many great speakers at short notice, and the feedback I've already been hearing in between sessions, that to see that we really struck the right nerve here. So we want to use this short session to help us explore the practical ways of taking this forward, and I'm delighted to be joined by two great panelists. We'll start with, in the room, Igor Rudan, visiting professor at Oxford University and professor and director for global health at the University of Edinburgh in the UK, and someone who's made and is known for his great contributions to global health economics. So Igor, let me pose the first question to you. How, as we develop the Future 500 forum and programming, how can we better or best align with existing initiatives and strategies on innovation, research, competitiveness to amplify the reach and really make an impact? And maybe as a part two question, if I can already weave that in, how can educational and research institutions connect with that effort?
Thank you, everyone, for inviting me here. So I'm very happy to share a few of my perspectives. So when you work in global health and development, you're constantly focused on what works, what's working, what's helping. 25 years of my life, I've just been traveling around the world all the time and watching what's been working, but not just for the poor people, but also for the wealthier countries. And in America, something what Varoufakis might call techno-feudalism, but certainly what's worked for them in the last at least 15 years or more is this enormous capital that is willing to take enormous risks and then really push of those who succeed against the government to reduce taxes, to reduce regulation. That's their way. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying it's worked for them in the last 15 years, surely. On the other hand, you have China, and I've been to China many, many times. What's working for them is they have this centralized decision-making and everything's top-down, which is helping them to an extent. On the other hand, they are now really embracing robotization, and they can produce everything for much lesser price than anyone else in the world. They have massive number of people, phenomenally industrial country, but also turning to renewables very, very quickly and efficiently. And let's not forget, they also had one-child policy since 1979. So anyone in China who's younger than 47 now is a single child, didn't have any brotherly love, didn't have to share resources with anyone. All efforts from parents went into them, and they're a new generation of people who are going to take over China, and they're going to be very difficult to compete with. So that's America and China, and I'm actually happy to be hearing China within almost each session here, because before it would just be EU and US. Now it's China is very much in the picture, and it should be. But then also what I haven't heard is Africa. I haven't heard Brazil. I haven't heard South Africa or Indonesia or India, of course. So all of these countries are now having something else that we don't have. They're having demography in their favor. When you go to those countries, everyone's younger than 40 really, and enthusiastic and eager. And they don't feel entitled to good life at all. In fact, they're feeling angry towards us Europeans for the situation they're in. And they're trying to make their lives better very hard. So there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm in those countries now. So for investors, they're very attractive at the moment. Africa, if you went to Africa recently, some of their urban areas would really, if not shock, but very much surprised that they look more developed than parts of Europe now. So, within all this context, when you think of Europe, we have everything the opposite of that, unfortunately. So, should we be worried? I think we should be very, very concerned. And one of the reasons for this is because in global development, if you know how regions become world's problems, people think it's because they become chaotic, war-torn, or, But actually, that's not the case. Africa has grown economically for the last 200 years, but it didn't grow as fast as others. So if you're thinking, okay, we're growing 1% and somebody else is growing 3%, that doesn't seem like a much difference, but run it 20, 30 years, and this is exponential growth, and you will see what an enormous difference that's going to be, because this is an exponential function. So you see, already in the last 15 years, we fell behind the United States economically far more than I would have thought we would. So what can Europe realistically do? It's not like it hasn't tried. Horizon program, which you kindly mentioned, has been a success. It's tried to overcome this problem of Europe, of devolved leadership and subdivision and further subdivision. So it created a common environment for science, and all the indicators are showing that it helped. Europe has remained competitive in terms of science. But what I'm not sure about, and so are the others, is all this enormous investment in science and technology, has it transferred well into European companies? Because if it hasn't, then we have a serious problem. And this is now where the problem comes to academic institutions. The leaders of European academic institutions at the moment are really torn, because in America, 50 years ago, it was all about, are you publishing super paper? 25 years ago, it was, are you bringing a lot of grants? But now it's, are you setting up a startup, which university would have like 10 or 15 or 20% stake. And, European academics are, still honoring the traditions of Greek philosophers, I think. They would like to be paid to think and create, but not necessarily to worry about the company formation. So that is the bottleneck. We need to do something here to overcome this bottleneck, to make these 500 companies directly accessible to universities far more than they are now.
Sounds a little bit like the problem with some of my think tank colleagues. So anyway, we'll come back to that. I want to turn to Mislav Ante Omazić, who is joining us virtually because he's battling the flu, but has agreed to still join us on screen, and I'm delighted to have you with us as the president of the management board of the IEDC-Bled School of Management and professor for strategic management at the University of Zagreb. And as someone focused on organizational strategy and scale-up trajectories, my question to you, Mislav, is, as we build out the group of the Future 500 companies, What criteria do you think should guide us in selecting these companies with a particular focus on their growth potential? So over to you.
Thank you, Jörn, and warm regards to everyone in the hall. I'm sorry that I couldn't join in person, but it is as it is. Before I start answering to a question, I would like to reflect on your previous question regarding educational institutions and their role in the modern society. I couldn't agree more with Professor Rudan, because we must act less as a self-sufficient ivory towers and more like launch pads for our brightest and most potent ones. And in that sense, I believe that throughout the whole session, from the morning, we could perceive that matter of approach. I'm constantly saying to my students one saying from Henry Ford, and he said, whether you think you can do it or you think you can't do it, you're always right. So people that think that they can do it, they are doing it. And people that think that they can't do it, they are finding 10,000 different reasons why they can't do it. So as educational institutions, we should constantly ask ourselves the question, how are we fulfilling our mission? How that spark that Jura was talking about at the first grade goes away by faculty. And we should ask ourselves also the questions why only 4 countries count for almost 2/3 of all unicorns coming from Central and Eastern and South Central Europe, and why about 20% of regions unicorns come from the country that has population of around 1.3 million, and that is Estonia. So I think that business schools and universities should play a constructive role and succeed in that sense. And then, only then, education becomes a renewable source for entrepreneurial energy. And talk about criteria, it's really hard to pinpoint just one criteria. We've been extracting longitudinal studies from different journals on scale-ups, and we came up to 14 different variables. And I think each and every one of them is really important. People before me mentioned mindset, some of them mentioned culture, and that is true that Peter Drucker said that culture eats strategy for the breakfast, but it's also important to say that it eats organization for lunch, and by dinner it's hungry. And I think that one of the biggest problem of Europe it's identity, because identity is a part of the culture. And we Europeans don't perceive ourselves as Europeans, because if you speak with Americans, first think about their identity, they would say that they're American, also Chinese. And when you speak to the Europeans, then Europe comes at the 5th or 6th place. And I think that we should start in the kindergarten, maybe by teaching our kids maybe 2 other languages than their mother tongue, and developing them as European citizens. Because I think that's the biggest problem Europe is facing. Not that we have scattered regulation, scattered markets, but also we have scattered identity.
Thank you so much, Mislav. Unfortunately, we only have time for a lightning round. So really 1-minute answers to both of you, the same question. What other than what you already mentioned would you give us on our way as we develop the Future 500 to really make sure this is a success with this focus on entrepreneurs, scale-up companies, and the potential to grow and innovate?
Okay, so I'll just briefly mention what we're working on at Oxford at the moment. So clearly, at least Europe still has top universities in the world, and at Oxford we're trying to see, in addition to all the quantitative indicators from finance and economics that are helping you predict the future of the company, can we also tap into something else? And we just launched a science called ideometrics. So we are trying to develop a new science and a method that can capture people's perceptions of the future of the company, and based on thinking of a company as simply an idea which can be generated, and then it can be evaluated, and then it can be prioritized. So some ideas fly, some ideas don't, and we are going to try to do this, to use this as a complementary approach to all the finance indicators, to see whether we can actually get better understanding of what's going to work just by asking people, crowdsourcing their opinions on ideas rather than just looking at the numbers.
Thank you. And Mislav, from your experience in strategic management and at the Bled School, what else can help us make this a success?
Yeah, I read on our LinkedIn page a couple of days ago that future is not built by a few, it's shaped by many. So that's why I'm thrilled to have full room today. Special thanks to all participants and supporters at this early stage regarding 500 initiative. So the Future 500 initiative aims to bridge this gap by developing a transparent, data-driven, policy-relevant methodology. And we measure growth not only in financial terms, but also in resilience, leadership, growth, innovation, and globalization. And as I said, at the moment, we have 40 variables. And the methodology should offer a reproducible data-driven framework that can be used by policymakers, investors, and business support platforms to prioritize support and the risk investment. To make it stronger, we signed 2 memorandum of understanding with top consulting companies, namely Deloitte and EY, to use their Fast 50 and Entrepreneur of the Year list so that we can make our more robust and more relevant. So I would like to invite everyone to contribute. Our white papers, both Professor Rudan and ours, are going to be open by the end of the week at our webpage, because I genuinely believe that nothing is more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And I also believe that this bringing so many different stakeholders to the one whole proves that our idea time has come.
Thank you so much, Igor and Mislav, and a huge thank you to our audience. And we very much hope that all of you will continue to join us and to stay engaged with us as we build out the Future 500 Forum with our partners at IEDC-Bled School of Management. And back to you, Petra, and then I know Stepan as our great partner. And thank you again to you and your team.
And thank you both.